Before we get into the story of the Matewan Massacre, we need to do some back history on how things were already heated between the coal miners and the coal companies long before that point in history. What happened at the Paint Cabin Creek strike is often regarded as one of the worst and the first serious confrontation between coal miners and the coal companies at the beginning of the 1900s. It is also considered to be one of the first major conflicts of the Coal Wars that was to hit the region over the next several years. The confrontation lasted between April 18, 1912 and through July 1913. Several other labor-related conflicts would happen over the following years, ending with the Battle of Matewan and the Battle of Blair Mountain. From the years of 1893 through 1897, there was a severe economic downturn that caused an economic depression in the United States. This also affected the presidency of William McKinley and caused a huge political upheaval, caused the re-election of U.S. President Grover Cleveland. There have been several causes as to why this happened, some of which is that the United States economy of that time was dependent upon high international commodity prices, also including investments that were made to the Baring Brothers Bank in Argentina that had failed, the wheat crop failure of 1890, a failed coup d'etat in Buenos Aires, a run on gold in the U.S. Treasury. The U.S. was on the gold standard at the time. People began to hoard their bullion coins because they were afraid that they would lose everything. Also, the Philadelphia and Reading Railroads had overextended themselves, and it was now having receivers appointed for them. Also, the policies of President Benjamin Harrison have also been named as a contributing factor to this depression. President Cleveland had Congress to repeal the Sherman Silver Purchase Act. Because the coal companies of that time were also feeling the pressure from the depression, they cut wages to their workers to keep solvent. The United Mine Workers was founded in Columbus, Ohio on January 22, 1890, by the merger of the Knights of Labor Trade Assembly number 135 and the National Progressive Miners Union. The reason behind this merger was that the two competing former unions were creating more problems for the miners than solving them. The idea behind the merger was to unite and organize mine workers and others in adjacent occupations into a more effective negotiating unit. With the coal operators reducing wages on a regular basis and the mines being a dangerous place to work, with operators denying a lot of miners' rights, the UMW started to gain ground on membership. The United Mine Workers Union came together to make a working 11-point constitution to help its workers. The preamble states, "We have founded the United Mine Workers of America for the purpose of educating all mine workers in America to realize the necessity of the unity of action and purpose in demanding and securing by lawful means the just fruits of our toil." The UMW Constitution listed 11 points as its union's goals. Payment of salary equal with the dangerous work conditions. This was one of the most important points of the Constitution. Payment to be made fairly in a legal tender, not with company script. To provide safe working conditions, with the operators to use the latest technologies in order to preserve the lives and health of the workers. Provide better ventilation systems to decrease black lung disease and better drainage systems. enforce safety laws, and make it illegal for mines to have inadequate roof supports or contaminated air and water in the mines. Limit regular hours to 8-hour workdays. End child labor and strictly enforce the child labor law. Have accurate scales to weigh the coal products so workers could be paid fairly. Many operators had altered the scales and had showed a lighter weight of the coal than actually was produced, resulting in underpayment to workers. Miners were paid per pound of coal that they produced. Payment should be made in legal tender. Establish an unbiased public police forces in the mine areas that were not controlled by the operators. Many operators hired private police who were used to harass the mine workers and impose company power. In company towns, the operators owned all of the houses and controlled the police force. They could arbitrarily evict workers and arrest them unjustly. The workers reserved the right to strike, but would work with operators to reach reasonable conclusions to negotiations. The United Mine Workers Union was a response to the wage reductions from the Panic of 1893. By 1902, the Union membership of the entire state of West Virginia had grown to 5,000 miners. However, these numbers were still very low, especially in the southern Appalachian part of the state. Before the strike of 1912, there were 96 coal mines in operation in the Kanawha County, West Virginia area. There were approximately 7,500 coal miners employed. All 41 mines that were located on Paint Creek and the surrounding area were unionized. There were 55 mines on Cabin Creek that had no union. The miners of Paint Creek received 2.5 cents less on each ton of coal than other miners of that area. When the union contract was up for negotiation, the Paint Creek Union tried to settle a new contract with the operators. In the negotiations was a raise for the miners to have the same compensation rate as the surrounding area and for automatic union dues. This would increase the cost of the operators approximately 15 cents per miner per day. The operators refused this increase and no new contract was made. The operators also withdrew their recognition of the UMW. When the negotiations failed, the union called for a strike on April the 18th, 1912. The new demands were that operators would accept and recognize the union, that the miners' right to free speech and peaceable assembly would be restored, that blacklisting discharged workers would be stopped, the compulsory trading at company stores would be ended, that cribbing would be discontinued, and that 2,000 pounds of mined coal constitutes a ton, that scales would be installed at mines to weigh the tonnage of the miners, that the miners would be allowed to employ their own check weighmen to check against the weights found by the company check weighmen as provided by law, that the two check weighmen determine all docking penalties. After debate, all 7,500 miners from non-union mines, Cabin Creek, Kanawha, and Fayette counties, also joined in with the striking miners of Paint Creek and declared their own strike as well. The union set up tent camps for the miners and their families as they were evicted from company-owned homes without warning from their houses. During this time, UMW Vice President Frank Hayes, a well-known labor activist, and Mary Mother Jones would visit the area to give encouragement and support to the miners and their families. The National United Mine Workers Union pledged its full support, giving full financing and any aid that was needed to the striking miners. Because of this influence, the first month of the strike was peaceful. We will leave this here with everything being peaceful in the camps. In the next post, we will discuss the involvement of the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency and the first volleys of the strike. Thank you for watching.